Welcome to Thalir. This is a place called Bud. This is budding forth for a new life, and we are Capuchins working for the renewal of the society and the church.
This is part of the Solanus KC Holistic Welfare Center, Viluppuram in India. We give motivational trainings and empowerment for religious and lay leaders, formators and formees, teachers and students, families, parents and children. We also give counseling to the individuals and the communities and the families. We conduct retreats and monthly recollections. Above all, we give special focus on the poorest of the poor, the marginalized, the migrants, and the welfare of the rural women and children. Solanus KC Holistic Welfare Center. Contact the Director, Nitya, YFM Cap. Email totalexcellencenow@gmail.com. Dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, I am very happy to welcome one and all, east to west, north and south, all over the world, the English-speaking world of the religious, the formies and the formators joined together. We are around 800 to 1,000 people gathered here in this Zoom meeting now. We are going to listen to the special message by Fr.Jerry on the prophetic obedience to God's will, freedom to love and live for the gospel, and working with the poorest and the least as on vow to be poor. And also we'll be listening to Father Wilson on the grace of community life. Father Jerry will be dealing on the 3 vows, and Father Wilson will be dealing with the community life. Welcome Father Jerry and Father Wilson.
That I have this opportunity this evening to talk on the 3rd vow, that is poverty. As I had handled the sections yesterday, also day before yesterday, I have again today 7. Yesterday I called them 7 dimensions of chastity. The previous day I called 7 highlights of obedience. Whereas today I like to call 7 demands of poverty. I repeat, 7 demands of poverty. And you will be certainly getting the one I have prepared, A4 size, namely that 1 page as synopsis, and the demands, the 7 demands of the vow of poverty in course of time via WhatsApp. But now I invite you, and I like to join and then journey with you to reflect on the 7 demands of poverty this evening. I like to begin my session with a quote, but a simple one, quiet, quotable quote. Certainly this quote is, and this quotation is quite familiar, but I cannot but begin this evening session with a reference to that particular quotation coming from that particular person who lived poverty quite convincingly, quite comprehensively, quite challengingly, and quite committedly all throughout his life. And the quotation goes like this. End of that one, you know the person whom I am referring to. The sun is my brother. The sun is my brother. Moon is my sister. Earth is my mother. Though he calls sun as his brother, and the moon as his sister, and the earth as his mother, but in the end point of his reflection, he puts poverty. Poverty is my lover, lady poverty, beloved poverty, my lover. Today, the challenge before you, the challenge before me is nothing but this one. You are not only taking the vow of poverty. Look at my sentence. You are not only taking the vow of poverty, something to be pronounced, but we are taking the vow of poverty to be practiced. And the vow of poverty is not a concept, but vow of poverty is something concrete. Something concrete. And the vow of poverty is not only an articulation. It's not only an articulation. Vow of poverty is an animation of our very life. Of our very life. And if you know, put them all together, you and I will be St. Francis of today. Francis of Assisi living in this 21st century. And if you and I live together, live this particular way of our poverty, and we declare of Assisi of today in this century of 31st, that's a challenge. That's an invitation. That is an inspiration for certain implementation. I repeat the words. I repeat the words. It's a challenge. Poverty is a challenge. And especially the modernized, globalized, liberalized, privatized, and digitalized world of today, poverty is a challenge. It's a challenge. And you and I are very joyfully embrace the lady poverty. And poverty has become our lover in the words of Francis of Assisi. And we need to love poverty. And that's my call for you. And that's my invitation in the name of God, of Jesus, that we will also, as Father Nithya put it in the introduction, we also will partake in the poverty of the personality of Jesus of Nazareth. Was born poor. As St. Paul puts it, he was rich. He emptied himself. And he made himself as a personification of poverty. Look at my detail. Jesus did not take the vow of poverty, but he lived it. Mary did not take the vow of poverty. She lived it. Joseph did not take the vow of poverty. He lived it. And all put together, the Holy Family was a sacrament of the vow of poverty. The Holy Family is rich in grace, but poor in very life. And they manifested and a particular way of life marked by simplicity to the core. And that is nothing but poverty, and that too very radical poverty. Poverty as a lover. This is my first point. Because it's very, very important today, before I begin my other reflections, to place this particular point squarely before you, so that you will really sincerely and very seriously look at my words. The word sincerely and also seriously consider this vow of poverty. Why? I will give the reason and end my first. I demand of poverty. Why? We are living in a world where all the things are available. I still know that when I joined the novitiate, we were given only the basic needs. Nothing more. Nothing more. And we were even given second-hand cassettes. That means to our school seniors, we use their pants or use their shirts, use their cassettes, and they were given to us. But that was about 40-50 years ago, 40-50 years. Now things have changed. We are living in the 21st century, and money is available, and comforts are available. Not only money is available, not only comforts are available, luxuries are available. And every chapter of every congregation is becoming more and more generous, more and more generous. And all the superiors, whether they are provincial superiors or general superiors or local superiors, they want to be very brotherly, very sisterly, very fatherly, and very motherly, and accordingly they like to shower on the members of the community, on the members of the province, on the members of the congregation, and more comforts. And more comforts, once that crosses the line, it becomes luxuries. In the process, what happens? Look at my sentence. It is a strong sentence, but I mean it. In case you want to get any further explanation, I'm at your service at the end of my session. They follow the same dynamics. About 1 hour I give the input and followed by about 15-20 minutes of what we call clarification. By 7:25 we will go for summing up, and then we go for what we call water tanks, and forward we will close the shop, end the session at 7:30. Afterwards it's free. Any further bonus time, and you can sit and you can ask, and I will stand to answer continuously with questions till you become tired, till we become tired and ready for it. However, look at the way I am concluding the demand number 1. The demand number 1 in terms of poverty. What is that? After taking the vow of poverty, I know some of you are not taking the vow of poverty as candidates or novices. At the same time, some of you would have taken the vow of poverty as junior sisters. But I'm not talking to you one and all. There I like to put it exactly and very shortly and very straightly. We profess poverty, but in our life, we make mockery of that vow of poverty. Even on the very day of vows, morning we profess, then we are taking the vow of obedience, chastity, and today poverty. And yesterday they refer to obedience, and yesterday they refer to chastity, and today they refer to poverty. Put them all together. We say we are professing of, after all preparing ourselves for years to come, 2 years and 3 years, and then novitiate itself. Most of the congregation have got 2 years. Some may have 1 year, but still a solid time of 3 years. Put them all together, it goes to about over 1,000 days of preparation. If you not put in terms of 3 years, and then I'm putting plus or minus 1,000 days. We get ourselves ready, we get ourselves prepared, we get ourselves formed, we get ourselves motivated, and we get ourselves what we call directed and mobilized. We get ourselves dedicated, and we make a solemn profession that we are taking the vow of obedience, chastity, and today I'm referring to today's one, poverty. But you will not hesitate to accept with me. Most of the congregations, most of the novitiates, most of the formational services, and most of those what we call communities in today's scenario, in the globalized and modernized scenario, morning profession of poverty is a day of poverty. Evening, it becomes a day of prosperity. This is what I call mockery. Mockery. Not just irony. Mockery. And we mock at ourselves. Mouthing poverty. But making the very day of poverty as a day of prosperity. Both begin with P. Poverty, prosperity. Both end with Y. Poverty, prosperity. But this is the morning. In everything, kind of the high mass participated by provincial general and then celebrated and ended by bishops and archbishops. But when we make a solemn big profession, poverty, but that day ends prosperity. We acquire and procure. We become all the more luxurious, and that's I call mockery. It is here I began the session with the verse of Francis of Assisi. Sun is my brother, moon is my sister, earth is my mother, brother, sister, mother, but poverty is my lover. You remember yesterday I said, while talking about the girlfriend, about the chastity, boyfriend, girlfriend, I call upon you, the name of Francis of Assisi, that we also should take the poverty as our boyfriend. If you are girls, and you have to take poverty as your girl, you have to take poverty as your girlfriend if you have boys. I need to love poverty and stand by poverty, live poverty, and thereby should refuse to make mockery of my own body. My own body, your own body. Good, first demand is over. I move to the second demand, and the second demand goes like this. Historically speaking, look at the historical information. Very interesting information. You know, on the first day I studied, the so-called consecrated religious life began towards the end of 4th century. I'm not going to repeat, but I make a recollection. Today being the 3rd day, and we're ending the set of the formula of the vows, obedience, chastity, today poverty. I need to make some references. On Monday, I didn't make a reference saying that the consecrated life began towards the end of 4th century. They obeyed the gospel, but they did not take any vows till when? 7th century. And the 7th century, they took the vow of obedience. Even that one, obeying God's voice, coming through, well-informed, well-formed, well-transformed conscience. They were listening to the voice of God. They were listening to the demand of God. They were listening to the inspiration of God. And they were listening to the invitation of the Spirit of God. And they said, faith, obedience. And the 7th century. And the next 2 centuries, that is from 7th to 9th, they were taking one vow, that is obedience. Whereas from 7th, after 9th, they started taking 2 vows. Only obedience and chastity. Till when? Till 11th century. 7th century onward, obedience. 9th century onward, chastity also, along with obedience. Only from the 11th century, the 3rd vow came, and that is poverty. This is history. I got details, but I should not bombard you with all the information. And I call upon you to ask your formators, animators, call upon you to ask your facilitators, and who will inform you this particular historicity of the words. Only from 11th century, we are living in the 21st century. That means long 10 centuries, we have the formula called what we call obedience, chastity, poverty. And the formula is set. And today, canon law, the latest canon law, the laws of the Catholic Church, promulgated on the 25th of January 1983 onward, that was last about 37 years, and the canon law says no religious congregation is free from these three vows. All have to take these three vows, and no question of taking anything less than 3 vows. Why? That takes me to the next point. That's the third demand. What is that one? That is, the vow of poverty is linked with the third value of the gospel. That is love for the society, and in a very special way, in a very particular way, in a very prophetic and pointed way, in a very preferential way. Love for the least, love for the poorest, love for the last. In the words of Pope Francis, love for the periphery, or pushed to the periphery. And we are standing and sitting, and we are occupying the center stage. We need to move out and stretch out and reach out to those people who are pushed to the periphery, and they are uncared for, if not unloved for, and they become marginalized. Some of your congregation may be using the word marginalized. That means they are being pushed to the margins of the page. Or some of your congregations may be following the word, using the word, employing the word, sidelined. The same. That means they are not in the main line. They are in the sidelines. Sidelined, marginalized, that they oppressed, that they suppressed. that is silenced, and they have been squashed. They have been squashed. And in the words of Pope Francis, they are at the periphery. 2015, when he declared that year 5 years ago as a special year dedicated to the consecrated religious life, and he made a powerful statement, and the statement is nothing but this one: religious are not expected, men and women, and especially the apostolic religious men and women and monastic men and women, they are also consecrated, but they have got their own way of life. Contemplatives, and those are in the monasteries. But those who are belong to apostolic and active congregational institutes, and as I said, 3,325 congregations are in the Catholic Church, and about 87, put in 90%, 90% of congregations are apostolic, active. Only about 10% belong to the contemplative monastic. And all of you who may be attending today, and this sessions are mine, or who attended yesterday, day before yesterday, by and large, we all belong to the active branch of the consecrated life, apostolic branch of the religious life. We may call ourselves contemplative in action. They are not simple contemplatives. They are contemplatives in action, in ministry, in mission. And 2015, Pope Francis threw the spotlight on this concept. He said, don't sit in your convents. Don't get stuck within the four walls of your seminaries. Don't become inward looking. Don't become selfish. Don't become egoistic. And don't live for your own congregations. And through the congregations, look at the verse of Pope Francis. Come out, come out, come out to the streets. Come out, come out, come out to the streets. And extend your hand of solidarity. And then reach out to the periphery. Therefore, don't only pray, marginalized, sidelined. Don't only profess the vow of poverty. Live the vow of poverty.
Ben?
Yes, Father, there is a network problem, I believe. Yeah. Father, we are not able to hear you.
Father, are you hearing us? Yeah, friends, we are trying to contact Fr.Jerry. We'll get back to you soon. As you know, he doesn't have a mobile to get to his another room.
Got it?
Yes.
Yes, Father. Yes.
Good. How come without any touch it becomes mute? Good. Let me now finish it. Namely that before ending my presentation, certainly you will see for yourself, my dear friends, that I will also give you certain practical and possible, feasible and pragmatic and sharing of my own experiences placing before you. Why not you also do much more than me? That's my invitation. But anyway, I end my second, what you call the third demand of today. The first one is I quoted Francis of Assisi. And the second one is saying historically poverty became the third vow to be taken, and only from the 11th century. And the third demand is this particular vow of poverty is linked with the third value of the gospel of Jesus, that is love. And look at the further explanations under this third demand. I know you are following my line of thought. what happened in between is not disturbing you much, but you can somehow pick up the speed and go carry on. And the third is demand is, namely the VOW poverty is also gospel based. It's like evangelical work that is drawn from the gospel. And the gospel means not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, much more the values of the gospel of Jesus. And the third value is love. I repeat, the first day, VOW obedience linked with the value of justice or truth. And the second one yesterday, chastity or celibacy, linked with the second value of the gospel, freedom. And today, the VOW poverty is linked with the third value of the gospel, love. Many a time, many of the formators and animators, when they refer to the value of love, they will talk about chastity. But as for the theology of the consecrated life, as for the theology of the evangelical councils, both, love is not reference to chastity, though easy to explain that way, but love is in terms of poverty. Why? Explanations follow. Without love, there is no human life. Without love, there is no human life. A man and woman love one another, and the child is born as a fruit of their love. If there is no love, and the human species will meet its end, and the human resources and human beings will have their end. The love reigns supreme that way because that contributes to the creation, contributes to the production, and it contributes to the progression of the evolution. No love, no humanity. But comes next one. All should have love equally and equitably. Look at my words. All should be enjoying equal love, and all should be enjoying and experience equitable love. Equity. E-Q-U-I-T-Y. Equity. And the other one is equality. Equal love or equitable love. But now look at the explanation. Namely, though all should have love, equally, equitably shared with one another, but that's not the case. Some are loved who says no, and some are overloved, and some are unjustly loved. There are three levels.
Father,
Yeah, there is still.
we are missing you.
And sociologists and philosophers.
He missed 2 minutes.
Something.
He missed 2 minutes. The richest and the grade of being loved. Can you repeat?
Oh yes, no problem. Namely, look at this one. All have to be loved equally and equitably. All that means all should have the love without any discrimination, without any differentiation, without any departmentalization, without any division whatsoever. And that will be a just society, a loving society, a free society, a lovable society. But that is the real humanity as per the master plan of God of creation. But social scientists, philosophers, anthropologists, or thinkers with a sense of wisdom, they refer to various levels, 5 levels. 5 levels. The third is the mean level. M-E-A-N. That's the one. Loved. All are loved. Love is available to one another. Love is being experienced by one another. And love is being expressed by one another. Love is being exhibited and manifested by one and all. That's the equal and equitable love. That's the third one. But one is up. There's a second one, this side. I'm going up this way. Second one is overloved. Overloved. You will see them in your family. And the father may be loving the daughter's own, but we should have a certain limit. Others the boys, the others in the family may be left out. And it happens. Generally, the girls may be attached to their father. That is psychology. And the boys will be attached to mother. That is psychology. Though that is there, but there should not be one overly loved when others are less loved. There should be certain amount of distribution, and just distribution of love, even within the family. And that also can happen in terms of various factors. Maybe racism, same color, love is overly loved. This can happen even in the congregation. And especially if it is an international congregation, racism is there. The color of the skin also matters. And certain color, for example, white, being loved more than those who have the skin, black color or brown color or yellow color. Whereas white is preferred. And there's a racism is there. That is overloved, overly loved. But comes the higher one, first one, unjust love. I give an example, a simple example, without much explanation. That is even in your family, I again take the family. Certain times the child, maybe only one child, and the child may be boy or a girl, but the only child is pampered. All the time, anything that child wants, whether the son or daughter, happen to be one child, anything that child wants is being given enormously. Child may ask you for one ice cream, but the mother and father may be happy to give the child even the second one, if not the third one, ice cream. Ask for a chocolate. Not chocolate one day good enough, too good enough, but they'll be ready to supply anytime and every time. When the child asks for this or that, that is called pampered love. And the pampered love can be what we call unjust love. Tomorrow the child will grow up, become a teenager, and at the time demand all the things. At the time the father and the mother, the parents may find it difficult to say no, because they pampered the child. Unjustly the child has been brought up. Unjust love has given that particular orientation, and you should be given. No question of getting no from the parents. Unjust love. That can happen in a family, even in the wider circle. I'm not going to elaborate, but I have to finish this particular point before I move over to the next one. That's the fourth one. Now I am in the third one, as I said, linked with love. That is loved, all out to be loved. The higher above is overly loved or overloved. And the first one is unjustly loved. Down is there. That is the fourth one. Yeah. That is underloved. That is not loved sufficiently, not loved quite adequately, taken for granted, so to say. This can happen even again in your family, and that way we can expand to other horizons. There may be four children or 5 children, but it can happen consciously, if not unconsciously, if not subconsciously. The father may have a pet child, that may be the second child. But mother may say, the last child, the fifth one, is my pet child. What happens when the pet child among the 5 are there? Other 3, 4 are underloved. Underloved. And there is a certain amount of what we call it fascination about that pet child. And according certain concessions are given to the pet child. In the process, the rest are underloved. I know you are following the line of thought. I move to the last one, and that is unloved. 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 And today, in the world over, as per the statistics, there are about 31% of people world over. In the world, there are 193 countries. All the continents put together, as per the survey made by United Nations Organization, UNO, 193 countries are recognized by the international community humanity through the organization called United Nations Organization. There are another 35 unorganized small countries are there, but that is not counted here. 193 countries. The last one you know, from Africa, the South Sudan, which became the new country, born in the year 2009, 11 years ago. That's the last country. As per the registration, as per the recognition of the United Nations Organization. In the 193 countries, look at the detail. There are 728 crores of people. This is a language, our Asian Indian language. If you want me to put it in an international language, 7,280 millions of people. Another way of putting it, 7.28 billion of people. That's that count, head count. It's not the latest one. It's about 4 years ago, 2016. They made the last count. But they are updating. But let us now take it round. That is 7.3 billion. And there are 7.3 billion or 7,300 millions of humans around the world. Among them, look at the detail. Now come back to the point. There are solidly 31% or below the loved level. They are underloved. And among them, 17%, 17 out of 31%, they are unloved. And now come to the loved, and I'm not going to all the details. Loved and overloved and unjustly loved, the rest 69%. Among them, just one detail, 37% are in the loved circle. Roughly put it this way, 1/3 of the humanity in the loved equitable. 1/3 of the humanity is up, overloved, pampered, unjustly loved. Whereas another 1/3 this side, underloved, unloved. Now look at the way I'm connecting today's verb of poverty. You and I, when we take the verb of poverty, they're not simply saying, I love one and all. Sounds okay. But in particularly and very preferentially, that is called option for the poorest. And that is, you and I are ready to serve who are below the mean line, average line. That is underloved, unloved. There are 31%. That's 1/3 of humanity. If we think of the whole humanity as a family, and that means 1/3 of that your family is pushed down, and that is pushed aside, that is pushed to the margins, that is pushed to the sidelines, and in the words of Pope Francis, which I quoted more than once, pushed to the periphery. And that's the third value of the gospel, love. I have again this particular point, the fourth one, with this particular third one, with this particular reference. What is that one? Jesus began his ministry, and that is given in the gospel according to Luke. That is, if you know, chapter number 4, verses 18 and 19, gospel according to Luke, the opening day of his public ministry. In his very birthplace, Nazareth, he began the ministry, his ministry, gospel mission in his hometown in the synagogue. He got up to read what we call the text of Isaiah. You know it. I have come, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. I have come to give good news to the poor. but he says poor. It's very important one. He says poor, but that is quoting book of Isaiah, written about 700 years before. And it is chapter number 61, book of Isaiah, written 7 centuries before Jesus. He reads from the text. It began with that one. Poor. That is beginning. But towards the close of his ministry, which ran close to about 3 years, without going into details, he raised the level, or what you call it, he raised the demand, because we are talking about 7 demands. 7 demands, and the third demand is this one. He raised the demand. When he began, he used the word poor. Whereas when he ended his ministry, and he started demanding all the more, not any poor and every poor, even among poor, who are poor, comparative language. If not, the superlative language, poorest. Jesus did not use the word poorest. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, verse number 40. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, verse number 40. He would say, on the day of judgment, the final judgment, the last judgment, he says you will be assessed and you will be evaluated and your life will be judged on the basis of one point. He gives the details, you know it. But one point, verse number 40, whenever you did anything, service to the least of the brothers and sisters who belong to my family, that means he wants to say, I belong to their family. If he even here today, he will say, he belongs to the 31% of the humanity of this day, this century, who are underloved, unloved, who are not only simple poor, but they are not only poorer, but poorest, superlative. Superlative. And he uses the word least. Superlative. I leave it to you. Take this particular one for your prayerful consideration. Ask in the court of your conscience that when you take the vow of poverty, you mean not simple poor. That is the starting point of Jesus' ministry. As I said, it's from the book of Isaiah. It's only quoting the Old Testament. There's a New Testament, New Covenant, new demand is not poor. Everybody is poor in one way. And some of them also may be poor in some way. But Jesus raises that demand, saying that poorest, least, L-E-A-S-T, Jesus language. I am really thrilled. I'm really thrilled. Where did Jesus learn this language? He did not use a simple, common, generic word, poor. Why? I have got a point to make. All our congregations, by and large, practically about 85% of all the congregations around the world, whether they are priestly congregation, clerical congregation, whether they are sisters, women congregation, whether they are brothers, men congregation, 85% of the congregation today use the word poor, poor, poor. And then raise the question, who are the poor? Then after solemn discussion, lasting for 2 days, 3 days, in the province chapters and the gender chapters, they come to a very, very short conclusion, so to say. Look at my language. After spending 3 days discussing in the province chapter, discussing in the general chapter, and then spending lots of money on a particular deliberation. But the end of third day, end of the chapter, they came to a decision, namely, who is poor? Everybody is poor. Some are academically poor, and some are spiritually poor, some are psychologically poor, and some are emotionally poor. Bluffing moon, cheating moon is a mockery. If only Jesus also gave this answer, Everybody is poor. I don't think so. You will agree with me when I say, I don't think so. You would have been crucified at the age of 33. Because everybody is poor. Judas is poor. Herod is poor. Pilate is poor. Cheating who, bluffing who. And you are and mine, all our congregations are taking shelter, refuge in this particular notion and simply calling everybody poor. That the Bill Gates poor. And India, Ambani, Tata, Birla poor. And everybody is poor. Humbug. This is the way I started the session. Then this is a big challenge. The poverty looks rather simple, but it's a very serious matter. And what I'm going to say is something more. You cannot deny. Good number of our farmers, as I'm now talking to farmers, I'm not talking to you straightly. Then I'm talking to my dear younger ones, boys and girls. And you may be a postulant, aspirant, or a pre-novice, or novice, minor seminarian, or the junior, what not. Practically 70%. Look at my statistics. Practically 70%. They're coming from poor background. But once when we join the religious congregation, we take the vow of poverty and cheat ourselves, saying that everybody is poor. If that's the case, you and I should have stayed, remain at home. We should have served the poor. Why? There's a fourth commandment of the out of 10 commandments of Moses of the Old Testament. Honor your parents. Serve your father and mother. And love your parents. Why should you and I say no to that love? Though they are poor, though they may live from, not to become rich, to take the vow of poverty and live a life of prosperity. There is nothing but a sheer shame and mere manifestation of a mockery. They make a mockery of our poverty. I know I'm talking too much, but I know the Spirit is talking to me. I have prepared enormously for this day, spending over 3 or 4 hours preparation and prayer. I had my own prayer on this point, but now I know, supposing my preparation, transcending my preparation, I am now giving you forth a very pointed and sharp and straight challenge for life. And when I come to the 6th point practical, you will see how I'm going to sum it up on this point. On this point. And when we say our parents are poor, better to stay back. When we come, leaving our dear dad and our beloved mummy, and leaving our siblings, brothers and sisters, and giving up our friends, and then coming to the congregation, at the time we tell ourselves, without even expressing, that is, though my parents may be poor, but I'm going to serve poorer, if not poorest. In the words of Jesus, I come to serve not the less, not the lesser, but the least of my brothers and sisters of human family. In the words of Jesus, verse number 40, chapter number 25, Gospel according to Matthew, and they belong to Jesus. He says, whenever you did any service to any of your least among your brethren who belong to my family, that done it to me. Over that particular point. Now I move on to the 4th point.
The Jerry,
Yeah.
can you come little closer? Yes, now it's better.
Okay.
Some echo is there. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. 4th one. 4th one is, namely, in the modernized world today, the vow of poverty is an antithesis. The third demand I talked about, challenge to ourselves. Now the fourth demand that I am now talking from my preparation, which you will get it eventually. The fourth one is challenge to the world of today. Our life should become a challenge to the world of today. What is the world today? There's a big analysis. But I'm not going to throw my spotlight on all the details and data and the dimensions and of this particular social analysis. But I take just one point, one or 2 points. What is that one? Today's humanity, as per analysis, is colored by materialism. And our poverty is nothing but a challenge to the world of today, which is now being governed by matter, material, money, materialism. Pope Francis in one context says, the materialism today is nothing but terrorism. 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 What is a terrorism? It kills people. What is materialism? It kills the spirit of humanity. The humaneness is absent. And the sensitivity is absent. And the care and the concern for others absent. You suck the blood of others. And you fatten your purse. And you climb the ladder of materialism. Materialism. Connected with that one, the second point in that one, namely the world today, analytically speaking, is marked by consumerism. Materialism is a kind of a worldwide manifestation. Consumerism is consumerism is something that is being developed by every and each individual, though it can be by and large by the humanity. That means I can become consumeristic. Materialism, maybe your congregation or maybe my congregation. As a totality, as a part of humanity, as a part of international world community, and or part of the church, materialism is a kind of a common phenomenon. And the poverty is a challenge. That I will not be materialistic and we will stop being materialistic. And that is another common phenomenon. But comes the second one. Today the world, analytically speaking, even individually concerned, whether they like it or not, somehow they are being pulled into, sucked into a life of consumerism. I give you a very practical exercise for you to do. When you go back to your room this night, after this session, or this day, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, night, it need not be only today, but when you go back, just open your shelf cupboard. Open an almara or open anything wherein you have stored your things. I give a simple example. In case there are extra clothes that you are having in your almara cupboard, which you have not used in this year 2020, the year is not over, but the year began on the 1st of January 2020. And today we are talking on the 23rd of September 2020. About 8-9 months have passed. Another 3 minutes to go before the end of this year. But in the last 9 months, we have not used anything, any one of those things, which are only stored up. That means that is more than what you need. That is surplus. That's a surplus. And we are living at a time when the COVID is affecting the poorest least. Kindly distribute. Give away those things. And today's session will become meaningful and fruitful. You don't need to do it today or tomorrow, but you do it before the end of this month, so to say, or end of this week, so to say. As a result of this particular international formis program, I even here now suggest our formators, animators, facilitators who are attending this session along with the formis, kindly give general permission to your formis in case any one of the formis, need not be all of them, anyone, 2 or 3 or 5, they have been touched by this particular presentation on poverty, and they, even before taking the VOW poverty, and they don't want to say no to the surplus, no to bonus fees, No to consumerism. Kindly congratulate. Kindly congratulate. Kindly appreciate and approve. We are living at a time when 187 countries are affected by this virus, that is COVID-19. And people are being, what we call it, put in a big crisis. And we should not be comfortable. And we should not be materialistic and consumeristic. I know all the congregations have done their best. Okay, congregations would have done as a community, as a society, as an institute. But this call, since each one is going to take the vow of poverty, that means each one can be even being approved, appreciated if they want to give away extra things which they do on. It can apply to anything, because I'm now quoting the fathers of the church. Saint John Chrysostom said the same, and Saint Basil said the same, and Saint Jerome said the same, Saint Augustine said the same. And what is the same? It is nothing but this one. And I quote here John Chrysostom in a very special manner. If you have got an extra loaf of bread on your table, you are a thief. When God has created everything for everybody, and you are acquired extra, procured surplus, that means since you have taken more, somebody is left with less. And they got extra footwears, extra pairs of shoes. Again, you are a thief. You are a thief. Word of John Chrysostom. Why? They based on this particular note. Acts of the Apostle, chapter 2, verses 44 and 43. The first Christian communities. The same episode is also repeated in the chapter number 4, Acts of the Apostles. But chapter number 2, verses 44 and 43. And Luke writes like this. They brought all the things and placed it at the feet of apostles. They gave to common good, common use, as per each one's capacity, ability, skills. And they took from common only according to their necessity. That's the maxim and the way of life of the first Christian communities. Give to common according to your capacity. Give to common according to your capacity. Receive from common, take from common according to your necessity. This is economics. When you take more than what you need, that means that is you are becoming rich, even after taking the vow of poverty. That now takes me to the next one, and that is the what we call it the fifth one, fifth demand. I'm not going to explain. When you get the paper, you will see the details. But I want to highlight only one thing, and the fifth one, though I talk psychological, physiological, sociological, cosmological, or even spiritual, and much more physiological. When you get the paper, we'll get it. But I'm going to put it very, very shortly. The fifth demand. What is that one? I like to propose to you. Take for your consideration and prior to consideration, and then purposeful concretization. It's a kind of it's a psychology involved, sociology involved, cosmology involved, missiology involved, all put together, spirituality involved. There's a spirituality. What is that one? You would have come across this particular statement, what I'm going to say, but today I'm inviting to see from various angles. And the maxim goes, maxim, M-A-X-I-M, maxim goes like this. Simple living, high thinking. Quotable quote. Simple living, high, H-I-G-H, high thinking. That's what. And this particular maxim for anybody, everybody who wants to work in the public sphere. Mahatma Gandhi, whom you all know all over the world, the father of the nation of India, had contributed to the liberation movement in the Africa, South Africa when he was there. Eventually, he also contributed to the thought process of the international humanity. He's father of the nation of India, but now he belongs to the total humanity. Gandhiji said like this. Anybody who wants to work in public sphere. He was not talking to clergy or religious. He was talking in general. He says anybody who wants to work in the public sphere. Look at the way. They should be poor. They should be simple. But that's not the end of the statement of Gandhiji. Gandhi, Mahatma, Gandhi, Mahatma, big Atma, big heart. And Mahatma Gandhi. They ought to be poor. They ought to be poor. No choice. They ought to be simple. No choice. But that's only the first part of the sentence. Come on. Then he says, they should be seen poor. They should be seen by others poor. They should be seen by others simple. Their simplicity, their poverty should make their life believable, acceptable, accessible, available in the public domain. I repeat, Gandhi did not say this one for clergy, ordained, did not say to the religious, the consecrated and vowed. He was not referring to the vow of poverty, but he said anybody who wants to work in the public sphere for the common good, common servant, public servant, they should be poor, ought to be, must. It's a compulsory, obligatory. They should be poor. They should be simple. And next one, they should be seen poor. Others should see that poor. And they should be seen simple. Simple living, but high thinking. High thinking, gospel mission. Gospel mission. High thinking, not simply for poor, but walking with the poorest. Pilgriming with the poorest. We can go on. I go to the next point because in another 2 minutes I should end the session. Namely that the next one is practicals. I've already highlighted. Sixth demand, practicals. I've already highlighted. But nothing wrong to, as I sum it up, I can put it. I'm going to give you 1 or 2 or 3 practicals without much explanation, but born out of my thought process, also from my own personal experience. I can say it openly. As Father Nitya said in the introduction, the God of the poor and the poor of God. God of the poor and the poor of God touched me and touches you, each and every one of you. It's up to you to accept the invitation from God of the poor, poor of the God, the poor of God, the poor of God, poor of God, and God of the poor. Good. And what are the practices? Number 1. Before you take the vow of poverty, along with chastity, obedience, make up your mind. You will say, practical, number 1, you will say no to any gifts, any presents, even on your boasting, so that you will not turn the day of poverty as a day of prosperity. Parents, siblings, friends may be ready to offer you. They may like to give you something. But you say thanks, no thanks, no thanks. Instead, ask them to give to the poorest. Give to the least. Number 2, practicals. Number 2, look at this one. Namely, even if you're superior, local superior, provincial superior, general superior, even your congregational institute, even your chapter, provincial chapter, general chapter, being generous, they are giving you lot of allowances, lot of comforts, lot of material things. Again, you say, no, thanks. No, thanks. Check in the court of conscience and say, no, thanks. It's not disobedience, obedience to the Spirit. I belong to a congregation which is rather generous. And the Jesuit order is not also is a propertied and moneyed institute. They are ready to offer anything, everything to the members. On for mission, that's what they say. At the same time, I need to employ my conscience. I am taking the vow of poverty, not my provincial. He takes vow of poverty for his life. I take the vow of poverty for me. I have to move my vow. I need to check in the court of my conscience. And if I hear, not even, just because my provincial gives, just because my general gives, just because my congregation gives, I should procure, become materialistic, consumeristic. I need to check. I don't need it. And I used to tell my ILOPs, as and when I need, I will take it. But till I need, no tax, no tax, no tax. The third one is practical. Practical is nothing but, as I put it earlier, in case you have some surplus things on your table, surplus things in your cupboards, surplus things in your bureaus, almirahs, or your rooms, even if you are not taking the vow of poverty, especially as we are living in the very, very trying time of COVID-19, kindly see that you can sharing, not out of your surplus, not out of your affluence, but out of your conviction. So what you give, okay, you don't need it, but what you give so that they may have life and life in abundance. Words of Jesus, I come to give life in abundance. Words of Jesus, whenever you have given anything to them, you are given to me, you are given to me. Over the seventh demand, as I ended yesterday with reference to chastity, I used the word creativity, cordiality as a modern version. Or the previous day, when I referred to the vow of obedience, which can be seen as authenticity, sincerity, transparency, whatnot. Today I will also again, this vow of poverty in a modern language can be called sensitivity and a compassion sensitivity, not only to the poorest among humanity, as Pope Francis would say, even with reference to creation cosmos. Nature was poor, and you were poorest. So it can be sensitivity. Next one is solidarity, because our topic today is walking with the poorest. It's not for, it's with. As Jesus came to be one with us, Emmanuel, God with us. And we need to be with the poorest and the least. And that is called solidarity. So poverty can be understood, poverty can be interpreted, and poverty can be experienced in terms of the modern version. Sensitivity, compassion, solidarity. I end the session where I began. Poverty in the process becomes our lover. We not only take the vow of poverty, we love poverty. We live poverty. Love poverty. Live poverty.